Welcome back, everybody, to Just Keep Parenting. Glad you could join us for another week, another listen in. It's been a great week here in the lab school. We've had some really great progression with our teachers and the kids, and we've had some really great learning moments together. So, passing a little bit of it along. And today, as I taught my last class on campus, one of the teachers reflected that sometimes she knows things. She said, I know a lot, but she said, my problem is I forget. And I said, and that's why we do Just Keep Parenting videos, right? Because we know so much. We have so much information in our brain, but sometimes it's just remembering the piece that we need for this situation today, right? And so today's situation, we're going to talk about emotional coaching, right? We've talked about last week, we talked about first we have to feel our own feelings as the adults in children's lives so that then we can be empathetic, right? If we don't know what we're feeling, it's really hard for us to be empathetic with children. And so we have to right, take in what we're feeling first and be okay with that, right? I have said to the kids before, right, you know what, this isn't okay, and I'm not quite sure yet what's going to happen, but I need to go get a drink and then I'll come back and we'll talk about it, right? And so being okay with not knowing, right, what you're feeling, and not just assuming that because it's a thought that it's a feeling, because it's not, right? But what am I feeling, right? How do you feel right now? So we're going to take that a little further today and talk about emotional coaching so that we can talk about seeing and feeling and hearing, right? And so when we talk about empathy, it's important to know that empathy has it's like a two-sided coin, right? So we have a cognitive side and we have an emotional side. So from that cognitive side, that's the piece where we're seeing the other person's perspective. But from the emotional side, right, we're understanding their feelings. So we don't necessarily break it up typically, but it is two sides. In order for us to see that person's perspective, we also have to see the other side, which is that feeling, right? We have to understand their feelings. So when children lose control, right, or when an adult loses control, right, or distraught, our first job is to offer empathy to them, right? We've talked about it before, but our job is to be a mirror to that child, right? And being able to reflect back to the child, right, what you believe they're experiencing. So one of my mentors that worked for a community preschool out in Roseville, California. She's since passed away, but I learned so much from her when she talked with children, right? And when they were distraught and when they were maybe fitting or fussing. But she would reflect back. She was such a good reflector. She was such a great mirror. She would reflect back and she'd say, your eyes are kind of furrowed right this. Your eyebrows are kind of brought down and your arms are folded tight across your chest. You have your head down. It looks to me like you might be really frustrated right now, right? And so that reflecting back to the child helps them to get back into the next part of their brain, right? And so sometimes we just think, they're ticked, there's nothing we can do about it, right? Go to your bed, go to timeout, go whatever. But as we reflect back to them what they're feeling, right, that's that empathetic piece, then all of a sudden they're able to say, oh, is that how I look? Really? Yeah. Right? Yeah, your hands are going up and down. You must be really angry right now, right? And as I've used that for years with children, it's seriously like a miracle. It's amazing for them to all of a sudden hear it, right, and say, "Wait a minute, what is going on?" Right? Because our job is to help them see themselves, right? It'd be really nice if we could just hold up a mirror and say, "Look at this." We can't really do that. We don't have mirrors and they might break the mirror, right? But when the child achieves this awareness, right, of their feelings, that's the first step towards managing those feelings, right? And then they can start to organize things in their brain again. When they're in that brainstem, that lower level part of their brain, they can't organize. So when we empathize, we symbolically say, I see you, I hear you, and I feel you, right? So see, hear, and feel. So remembering back a few times ago when we talked about noticing instead of judging, right? Because we are so quick to judge. But if we can take that piece out of it and just be a camera, right? Boom, what am I seeing right now? And call it. It looks like you're really upset because your hands are flailing all over and you're yelling. And all of a sudden they're like, wait a minute. And they start to go back into that organization piece of their brain, which is the middle level of their brain, right? So when we see and we hear and we feel, there's no room for judgments as we just reflect what's happening, right? We had a couple conversations this week when kids were, may have been perceived to be a little rude to one of the teachers. And we had some good conversations about, they're not saying it personally to you at this age. So our job isn't to take it personally, but to reflect back what just happened. So reflect back what we see, reflect back what we feel, what we think they're feeling, and reflect back what we're hearing. And as we do this, we help that child to organize their brain. And if you look at the brain in three levels, right? The lower level, or that fight or flight, right? We call that the brainstem, right? When they're there, right, they're dealing with survival issues, right? When they move up to that middle part of their brain, right, they're dealing mainly with feelings, right? And the upper level, right, we call it the thinking brain when we talk about it with children, but that's where they focus on problem solving, thinking things through. So we talk a lot about how to get from the brainstem to the thinking brain, right? And I have parents report all the time. Just last week, I was visiting with a parent in the booth, and she said, he, popped off at me this week. And then he went in and he said, Mom, I just need to take a deep breath. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I said that, right? Coming from a 5-year-old. And so being able to help them organize their brain, that's our job when they're out of control, so to speak, right? So when children are upset, when they're acting in that, they're probably operating from that middle portion of their brain, right? Sometimes we see it as whining, we see it as complaining, or we hear it as complaining, right? And they may have some name calling going on, right? So their feelings, right? That's the feeling part of their brain, that middle section. They're being expressed, but they're being expressed inappropriately. So as we reflect back to them what we think they're feeling, right? We help them move up to that next level. If the children are throwing tantrums, they're fitting, right? And they have actions that are fitting, they're in that lower level, right? That brainstem. So then our job is to reflect back to them so that they can get up to that feeling part, right? They're still not there to the top, to that top part where they're thinking, right? But as we reflect back, Becky does a nice job of giving a scenario of what this could look like. She said, if a child is out of control, no, that's not it. Yes, it is. If a child is out of control, you might say, your arms are going like this, your feet are stomping, and your eyebrows are pulled tight. And you're demonstrating that for the child, right? And so then more than likely that child's body will organize and her mouth will take over, right, to that feeling part. So they've moved from the brainstem to that middle part. And you might hear this, stop it, I hate you, right? So she started to verbalize. It's still inappropriate, but she is verbalizing. She's feeling, right? So then you reflect back what you think she's feeling. You seem very angry. So this will help the child start to organize their emotions enough to begin expressing the problem. You won't let me do anything, she might venture. To help the child begin solving her problem, it is important to reflect back what you thought you heard. So you don't think I let you do what you want to do. At this point, the child may be capable of sharing the real issue with you. I wanted to play with Carmen and you said I had to do my homework. With the problem out in the open, right? The elephant is no longer a secret. You can then sum up what happened and teach the child another way of expressing herself. You were disappointed when you heard you couldn't play with Carmen. It's not hard to be able, it is hard not to be able to do what we want to do. What can I do to help you get started on your homework so you can visit Carmen sooner? Right? Isn't that beautiful? And I wish it all turned out as beautiful as that all the time, right? It doesn't, right? But it's important for us to start stepping into that water, right? And we may have to write, see, hear, feel on our hands, right? I have a note right now on my hand, right? To be able to remind me of those things that I need to do, even in parenting, even in mentoring my teachers. So using all three, I see, I hear, I feel, is not always necessary for each situation, right? But when all are used, it can be really powerful in what we're doing. So seeing is concrete, right? I'm seeing it, I'm talking about it, right? Listening, we have to listen very careful because it's understanding the meaning, right? And then feelings, they require us to use a certain level of guesswork, but the kids are always going to tell us if we guessed wrong with what they're feeling. So I love the part at the very end of this section where Becky talks about understanding does not change the limits on behavior, right? I'm not being permissive. I'm not changing the limits. It does help a child accept them more easily because they're in a different part of their brain. So we've got the lower part, the middle part, and the upper part. Remember, the lower part is all about survival. The middle part is about feelings, and the upper part is about problem solving. So as we can help our children move as we reflect to them, as we're that mirror, then their life is going to be better, and our life is going to be better as we reflect to them what we're seeing, what we're hearing, and what we think they're feeling. So good luck with the see, hear, and feel this week. I'd love to know how it's working for you.